Right. So I'm curious where where you'd like to go, what your parts might need to know.
Mhm.
Um, just kind of where you are right
Yeah, yeah. So I'll just talk about some of the money stuff. Um, so what I notice is like avoidant parts, right? I can't remember what all the four money scripts are, but I notice like parts that even though there's money there, parts that like put off paying bills, for example, or parts that avoid looking at bank accounts. Um, like I have a part that will just like almost blindly swipe my credit card. And then close to that, a part that says, it'll be fine. It'll all work out. It'll all be fine. And then it ends up with me having more debt than not having debt. So that's my big piece that I would like to work through. And I have managers that, make the spreadsheets and do the budgeting. Like I have all of that. And then what always seems to happen is, oh, we'll do that next weekend. Oh, we'll do that after we start the session with Rick. Oh, well, like last night I noticed, like, what do we need to buy on Amazon before we see Rick tomorrow? Like that happened last night. And so this is kind of like the mindset, right? And it wasn't even, it was like, oh, my kid needs socks. Oh, he needs a new guitar tuner. Like it wasn't even like anything that I didn't need. There was a book. But it's like that's kind of what I notice with when it comes to my parts and money.
now. Hearing is there are parts that just want to avoid money, want to avoid bank statements,
Mhm,
that type. There's a part, a spending part. That's my word.
mhm,
Blindly swipe the
mhm.
credit
Yeah.
card, and it's all going to be fine.
Mhm, mhm.
And there's spreadsheet parts, which maybe are the money managers of the system.
Yeah, I would say that lands. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Um, that are there, and I'm guessing there may be a polarization between the parts that want to swipe the credit card and say everything's fine,
Hmm.
it'll all be fine in the spreadsheet parts.
Hmm. I don't notice the polarization intensely in my body, but as you're naming it, it is, right? It is the parts that want to do the spreadsheet and then other parts that are like, oh, but we need this. Oh, but this will
Mhm.
help us for work. Oh, but this, that like it's like they make excuses when they come in. Yeah. Yeah. And then I notice stress around, oh, we need to make another plan. We need to make another budget and another plan. And then it becomes like that cycle.
Yeah. So the plan we had didn't work.
Hmm. Hmm.
We blew it.
Hmm.
Okay, well let's make another one
Hmm.
that'll work.
Yeah.
And I'm leaning into that.
Hmm. 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 That's lands. Yeah.
Yeah, all really normal financial parts.
Feels good to know that I'm not alone in that. Hmm.
Oh,
Hmm.
and necessary financial parts.
Hmm. Hmm.
The internal financial system um, has needed roles to function well,
Hmm.
and bending roles are needed, and control roles are needed, just like in any company.
Hmm.
So it's when those parts um, are forced out of those roles into an extreme role with extreme money scripts, money burdens,
Hmm.
that, that things can happen, or if the parts aren't talking to one another.
Mhm. That's what it almost like when you said that something about the parts not talking to each other really resonated. And I wonder if that's not why why I don't have such an awareness of that polarity in my body is because these two are not communicating at all. They're doing their own thing very independently. That makes sense.
Not even be aware of one another.
Yeah,
So we
that
can
makes sense to me. Hmm.
anything else that you'd like to speak to for?
Hmm. And I'm noticing a part that's grateful for the opportunity to work together. So I'm noticing that part that's coming out. Um, and I'm also noticing, and it feels like a part that has lots of self energy, but I'm noticing like a curiosity and a pull to figure this out. Like I have a part that likes to know the whys and the workings and all of that of my internal world. So I'm noticing that part that's here also that's feeling excited to tease apart some of these groups of parts.
Well, does it feel right to transition with that curiosity to these parts and just kind of see who's up and where the energy is?
Mhm. So what first comes up is one of my money managers that says, I don't know why none of our budgeting plans or money spreadsheets, I don't know why it's not working. And so there's kind of some confusion around that part, around why her budgets are never almost like are falling on deaf ears.
Mhm.
And I can vaguely over here sense another part that does the spending. So it kind of feels like it's more in the shadows. And I'm
Mhm.
noticing kind of both of those.
As you're noticing those two parts, Mel, how are you feeling toward them?
Curious.
Okay.
Mhm.
Just extend that curiosity to the money managers and the spending part that's in the shadows. See how they respond, or and if there's one that feels the most energy that just would like for us to get to know that part a little better.
Yeah, so they're both they're both noticing me. The spending ones are still kind of in the shadows. But I'm feeling like the money managers are more front and center right now.
Okay. So let the spending or yeah, the spending parts know that we can come to them
Mhm.
eventually, and we're going to just turn our attention to the money managing parts. Are they okay with that?
It feels okay. Good.
Is there any other part that would have any concern with us talking with the money manager part?
Not that I'm noticing.
Okay, great. So focusing on the money manager or money managers, I'm curious if that's one part or several parts.
So I only notice one part right now. But my sense is that there's more than one part involved in this cluster.
Yeah,
Mhm,
yeah, that wouldn't be unusual.
mhm.
Um, so focusing on that one that you are noticing, where in or around your body do you notice that?
So it almost feels like she's outside my body, but and as we're talking, I notice some sensations in my stomach that feels like connected.
So just sensing the sensations in your stomach, that part, and how are you feeling for that part right now?
Curious and open.
Okay. So extend that curiosity and openness to that part. Let it really feel your presence with it right in this moment.
Mhm.
How is it responding to you?
I'm getting words. So my sense is the part of my stomach is in exile, and these money managers work hard to protect. And so as I focus on my stomach, what I hear, I don't have a fully fleshed out narrative, but what I hear is emptiness and nothing are the two words that I'm hearing.
So, how are you feeling toward the exile, the emptiness, or the nothing?
I feel more compassion now, still feeling curious, but I have more self that's coming online now.
Okay. Just extending that curiosity and compassion to this part. And if it feels right now, I'd like you to just check with the manager or the other managers, money managers, and see how they are with us going to this empty part, this nothing part. See if they have any concerns or objections.
As I listen to them, they don't have an answer to their question, but they know that something isn't working with their strategies around money. And
Okay,
so they're open to the help. Like they're not sure why their strategies aren't working, but they're just realizing that. So I'm noticing it's interesting because I've never sat with these parts, but I'm noticing that there's trust in the
right.
system. Mhm,
Okay, great. So they have a lot of trust in you and they have a lot of curiosity themselves in wondering why aren't their strategies working.
mhm,
Really being open to you going to this part and being with it.
mhm. I notice them kind of just with me as I'm focusing on my stomach.
Great. Sending gratitude to them,
I,
letting them know that if, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I can kind of feel it going back and forth between the gratitude to them and then it coming back
Oh,
from them
great.
to me.
Oh, nice. Nice. All right. And let them know if they become concerned at all, that they can jump back in
Mhm,
for the permission. So continuing to focus on that one that you were sensing in your stomach, the emptiness and the nothing,
mhm,
and extending your compassion, self energy, curiosity to that one. Just really being with it? Are there any images, words, feelings that's associated with that?
So the other word that I got was survival.
Mm-hmm.
And there's kind of like a little bit of tension that's showing up. I notice the figuring it out part that I'm just inviting to pull back. So I'm getting a little more clarity now. I'm hearing, so I hear we, so there might be more than one part, but I'm hearing we were never anything important. So there's something about this connection to money and importance,
Mm-hmm.
and even maybe status is coming up there. Yeah, I'm getting a few memories where an idea that was really modeled and kind of like implicitly talked about was like this hierarchy of people who have money and then people who don't. So there might be some legacy stuff in there, but there's this. So I'm kind of hearing a little bit from the managers. I'm still with both, but hearing that, if we can be perfectly on top of our finances, then we won't have to feel like we're nothing or we're not important. Mhm.
Making sense to you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers for that information.
Say that one more time.
Maybe thanking the managers for that information.
Mhm. Mhm. There's almost like a sense of shame around spending money. Like if you carelessly spend money, right, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, I'm curious if it feels right if you could ask that part to say a little bit more about where it learned shame around spending money and if you carelessly spend it, so there's something wrong.
Mm. Like messages around like what's most important to spend your money on, which is like pay off your mortgage as fast as possible, like don't have any credit card debt, like buy like go to like six grocery stores to get all the deals, like buy all of this everything on sale. Like that's how you're responsible, how you're put together, how you're a good enough adult or person. But if you spend money on like frivolous things that you don't need, like new clothes or like dinner out or something from the grocery store that wasn't on sale, it means you're not doing good enough. You should be better. And so I'm noticing different memories from being young. There's almost like a connection around worth. Like you're not worthy if you blindly swipe or frivolously spend your money and don't have like a really big savings account and investments and all of these different pieces. And it's even like to be worthy of, because my curiosity was like, worthy of what? And the response I got was like, even worthy of other people's love and connection, because you're very looked down upon if you're not 100% always on top of your finances.
The other people
Hmm.
not doing money right.
Hmm. Yeah, like you can lose connections.
Did you ask this part when it first learned all of this?
So noticing too, so the empty nothing survival is one part, and this feels pre-verbal,
Mm-hmm.
and the shame around spending and the not worth connection, that piece feels maybe like 7, 8-ish. So there's
Mm-hmm.
two noticing. Mhm.
You got two parts here.
Mhm.
Yeah. What's your sense, Mel, as to which of these parts needs needs attention? Is there one part we should be going to, or are they pretty joined?
I think that they I think they're connected in a sense of like this. So when I think about or focus on the pre-verbal energy, it's kind of what comes up is like nothingness is the trailhead, like that's the inner experience. So it feels like from a young pre-verbal age, that one took on nothingness, emptiness, need to survive or survival. And then a few years later, this older part took on, I'm not worthy. So they feel connected, but it's kind of like the older one feels like it builds on the pre-verbal one. So I'm nothing, I'm empty, something about survival, and then I'm not worthy. And so to answer your question, where should we go? My sense is that we should start with pre-verbal energy.
Makes a lot of sense. To see if you can find that pre-verbal part. Is that still in the stomach or someplace else in or around your body?
I think they both, or my sense is they both live in my stomach.
Okay. So just sensing into that. And is your heart open to that part? Yeah. So just extend your openness and your curiosity, your self energy to that pre-verbal part. It just kind of feels the nothingness, the survival. I'm wondering if you have a sense from that part that it knows you're there, or is it responding in any way?
Yeah, so I just see like blankness, which feels like it doesn't feel dissociative. It feels like that's the part.
Mm,
Um, and I can sense that the part knows that someone's here because there was sort of a bit of a like, oh, someone's noticing me.
mm-hmm.
Um, and my senses is where the nothingness came from multiple experiences of misattunement. And so being seen in the nothingness is very new. Like it was pretty early on that I had protectors that kind of covered that up. I don't notice those protectors, I just know that that happened. And so it feels like new for them to be seen in such an attuned way, or for this pre-verbal one.
Them know that to be really sensitive to their needs and to move at their pace. See if there's anything that that part needs from you, wants to show you.
Always so interesting. I've done quite a bit of work around pre-verbal misattunement.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's a lot around this piece. And so it always kind of surprises me how much more there is around the misattunement. Um, and as I just really focus on the blankness or what feels like nothingness, my sense of what this one is trying to communicate, just kind of through energy and some memories, is there's like hopelessness of ever having real attunement. Like I would call it self-led attunement in adult language. And so there's a hopelessness there. And there's almost a sense of blame. Like you shouldn't expect attunement. That's too much to put on other people. So there's like a flatness, a hopelessness of like, this is just how it is. Like I was just born not okay. And as I just sit with that narrative, I feel my self energy deepen and extend in just into the nothingness.
Great.
And there's a softening and some skepticism almost with this nothingness.
Mm,
And so my sense is just to welcome feels like a skeptical part of the preverbal part is just to welcome that. Like, of course, you're skeptical. It's okay. And like, what feels important to communicate is all of you is okay. Like, all of your parts, preverbal, this preverbal one, all of your parts are welcome. All of your parts are okay. Like, as I communicate that, the nothingness thins, and I notice that there's like a young kid there. So it's kind of like a little more fleshed out. There's still kind of the nothingness, but I'm seeing more of a visual coming through as I welcome all of them into the space.
Do you welcome them? Are they aware of you?
Mhm.
Right.
So it feels like they're really leaning into like the self energy, really being seen. Like being seen feels big, but there's a comfort in being seen and accepted is kind of the language that makes the most sense around that.
Is that something you can extend?
Mhm.
It's seeing and acceptance.
Yeah, it's like they're as the nothingness, like it's kind of like the blankness fades, which is the nothingness. They are becoming more energetic, more lifelike. They're kind of moving around a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like laying. So the part feels like looks like baby, but feels like one. It's like the age range that I'm getting. And but so they can walk. So I'm like holding the part's hand and we're sort of walking around and the sense that I get is there's something uncomfortable about the space that they're in, that
Mm-hmm.
they don't want to exist in that space anymore. It feels very oppressive and like keep small. So I'm inviting me and them to come more into the present, like a different energetic space.
Right. Is there anything that they need to do before they leave that space, or are they ready to leave it, or anything that they want to leave in that space?
Mhm. As I was sending connection and acceptance and like a welcoming as the nothingness faded, which kind of felt a bit like a release.
Uh-huh.
What what my sense from the part is that there's an openness to explore. And so it kind of feels like, oh, we can see what life's about now for the part. Like it felt like it was nothing and it just was so um overpowering for them that that almost became or did become their whole identity.
Mhm.
And so it's like they left the nothingness there, and there's almost like an energy that surrounded this young one that was that old space. And so it's like as we left that space and came more into the present, it was almost like that energy stayed there in the old space. But I'm just gonna check with her. Is there anything that doesn't feel good in your body? So she has like stickiness in her feet still. And the narrative around it is, or my sense is, she felt so stuck in the old energy, in the nothingness. There was no escaping it. And so she's taking off her shoes and leaving them there. So it feels like that kind of take off the shoes is like we don't have to get rid of the stickiness. She just doesn't need those shoes anymore. I'm checking in with her just to see how does this feel? This is very new. And she's skeptically hopeful. She feels optimistic.
Mhm.
And she wants to hold on to the message of I'm good.
She can hold on to that message. It's a message she can hold on to now and forever, that I am good.
And as she said that, I was feeling some emotion. And I'm just letting her know how sorry I am that she felt like nothing and trapped for so long. Like that must have been hard and scary and lonely for her.
How did she respond to that? How was it for her?
It felt like an eternity for her. She's just like looking up at me with these big eyes. She's just like, my sense is like it felt like forever, like in infinity loop of this is just me forever. I'm so glad she's not feeling that way anymore.
Curious if there's anything else any other messages that she wants to take, or anything else she wants to explore.
I'm extending, so this didn't come from her, but what I'm extending is you're enough. And she's kind of has this like wondering look on her face, but she's taking it in. Like I don't think she's ever been told or felt like she doesn't have language, but and felt. I don't think she ever felt like she was ever enough. And so she's taking it in.
Just let her take that in just as much as she needs to take it in.
She just like randomly grew new shoes. It was like imagining like she's kind of like taking it in and it like really was resonating in her heart space and it was filling up her belly. And as the energy was moving down, it was just like these new shoes just like appeared on her feet. So she's like looking at her shoes. It, the representation of the shoes is being grounded in something stable and consistent and being grounded in what feels like love to her, like the self energy. And so I'm noticing from the money managers, there's some shock around, like they're saying, so I'm still holding 1 year old, 7 year olds over here. Money managers are saying, wait, you mean money doesn't prove worth or wealth doesn't prove worth? So there's kind of some shock around that. There's also a sense, like a little bit of fear around, well, if we don't associate money with worth, what if we just spend all our money and have nothing? So there's a bit of a concern around not being motivated. But this message of money equals worth or money equals connection is really connected to legacy stuff. I can feel that really clearly. And if I invite those parts to experiment with just like setting it somewhere, that belief, it's interesting because these money managers have always felt like we have to have a certain amount of money in the bank, no credit card debt, pay off my mortgage as fast as possible, and still have all these nice things, but also have a lot of money. That's how, like, they have this whole message. And when they put that down, surprisingly to them, what they can touch into is almost like an enjoyment of money,
Oh,
which is not what they expected, but kind of what they mean by that is like, oh, maybe instead of having to be so frugal, is the word that's coming to my mind about money, what if we could enjoy our life? Like, what if we could, and like responsibly, but what if we could enjoy things? And it wasn't this like very strict one-way mindset.
mhm. Ending form. What if we could enjoy?
Mhm. And they're even noticing that it opens up the door to choice. Like they're imagining like standing upstairs in the kitchen and like thinking about wanting something and then thinking like, okay, we want this. Should we not? Like it's not for to them where they're like, oh, it's just automatically going to be a yes every time, but there's actually some choice in that that like maybe it'll be a yes sometimes, maybe it'll be a no sometimes. Like there's like a fluidity almost.
Mhm, mhm.
And it's interesting as we were, as IFS is, as we were with the pre-verbal part, the this like 8-year-old part was watching
Yeah,
and could sense me. And like it's almost like the piggybacked on the healing. Like, there was a sense of like, oh, like I don't have to feel unworthy. Like I don't have to feel like I'm not going to lose connections. And so I'm just tuning into that one for a minute.
yeah. I was wondering about that part.
Mm. So I'm inviting that one to come closer. And I'm just sort of like agreeing, like, yeah, no, you don't actually have to feel unworthy. Like there's something about the way my self energy is showing up with this part that feels very different than anything this part's ever felt before or experienced with someone else.
Mhm.
So the part's like, oh, like maybe this is real. Like maybe everything else I was experiencing and feeling, not that the feelings wasn't real, but maybe that actually wasn't about me. And I'm agreeing. Yeah, like people in your life had a lot going on back then. Like
Yeah,
definitely wasn't about you. Um, the part is very quick to just let go of that. Like, oh, and I was chuckling because kids are so resilient. I was like, the card's like, oh, like I don't have to hold this, like this, like
I was,
I don't like it anyway. And so I was like, oh, and it
yeah,
just kind of like tossed it away. Um,
great. And if it wanted to do something with that,
hmm. And so it's on board. It says, oh yeah, we're gonna burn it because we don't want anyone else to feel like that. So at first it just kind of like tossed it. Um, and my senses also, and so in this space of like of burning, or using fire of the managers that are like they had just kind of set the legacy piece down. And my sense is that they can also use the fire to let go of that legacy stuff that they were holding.
I'm gonna throw that in the fire too.
Mhm. So like the 8-year-old's like kind of being playful about like tossing burdens into the fire. Like it feels almost fun for that part. She's like, oh, I don't need this. I don't need this. So it's embodying some playfulness as it does that, which kind of feels a little bit like as it invites in qualities that feel more authentic to it, uh, more of the burdens can kind of come out. So it's almost like this back and forth of invitation and unburdening. And then the managers are so happy to get rid of it. Like they're feeling like bigger and more confident and like really enjoying fluid energy and not like this is the only way. Like it felt really sticky for them. And they have more clarity around why it wasn't working. And they're excited about having more choice in their life because they really felt like pushed away almost when there was money decisions to be made because they always were like, no, budget, plan. And so more than one part would often push them away so that they could buy something essentially and not have to feel the criticism or um, yeah, from those managers. So the 8-year-old is feeling very playful. Like my sense, like all of these parts were stuck. Like the 8-year-old was standing, kind of like looking out at people, feeling unworthy. And so the 8-year-old is like so full of energy, just wants to like jump and play and move their body and just like embody what they're feeling right now because there's been such a almost like a frozenness to them. They like want to play with the 1-year-old. And it's almost like my 1-year-old doesn't know what play is, so that she's like looking at me like, so I was like, yeah. So they're like tentatively like curious about this. So they're kind of those two are together, close by but together. And it's interesting as I focus back on the managers, they are they're apologizing to the little ones. Like they're saying, like, we're so sorry that we didn't realize how, because I don't know that the managers knew that both of these parts were present underneath. They just knew there was like this sense of feeling like nothing and feeling unworthy. And so they're like, we're so sorry that we didn't know and that we didn't have a good strategy to help. And so it's
Yeah.
almost like there's a repair happening between the protectors and these two little ones.
It makes sense reminding the managers that you're here too.
Mhm. Yeah, there's so much like care and tenderness with these parts now.
Anything else that they need to say, need from you?
No, the managers are like I was like, do you need me to check in? Like, they were like, well, we know we'll be around a lot because we're going to be around every time there's money decisions to be made now. So there's like a fun energy to them, like a confidence almost of like, I know we're going to be in contact more. So they feel settled.
Curious, Mel, if you could ask the managers if they could articulate why it wasn't working.
Mm. So they have this awareness that they were doing something to help these little parts, and it wasn't what the little ones needed,
Hmm.
is their sense of why it wasn't working. So it wasn't actually about the money, it was about
Right.
these little ones, but they took on that money was the solution to solving the problem that was this like painful emotion underneath.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
I'm also curious, Mel, if you could check in with the parts, the spending parts that were in the shadows,
Mm.
and see how they're feeling if they were aware of all of this.
Yeah, so they were observing from a distance. Um, it's interesting. It's almost like they have their ideas, so they're also connected to these two little parts.
Hmm.
And it kind of feels like a mix of manager firefighter parts that were really organized around, this is how we feel worthy, is we have all these different things. So for them, as I tune into them, their strategies are like shopping scroll is a distraction. If I'm already triggered, when you buy new things, you feel good. Um, and there's this piece around if you have nice things, then you're worthy, then you're not nothing. And so they had their own strategies around these parts as a manager and as firefighters. So they're a group. There's three parts over there. So as I just name all of that, there's a realization of we are worthy whether we have nice things or not. And like that part says, like, it's nice to have nice things, but there's more of an awareness that it doesn't actually equate with who I am as a person. The other part says, I still like buying things. That feels good to have new things, but it doesn't feel as compulsive. And so my part's like, I'm like, it's going to keep holding on to liking new things, but it's not coming in as a way to feel better. It just likes buying new things. Yeah, it feels like this session, like the work that we did, that for this group, there's more of an awareness of um, or more of an intention around them to ask the question, are we buying things because we need to or because we're triggered? Or is this because we want to? And then I'm noticing these parts over here, these managers chime in that say, if it's and if it's because we want to, then these managers can come in and be like, okay, so is this the right time? Like, and there's more of like a logical back and forth with these ones.
Those parts are seeing each other.
They are
They've
now.
witnessed each
Yeah.
other's work. Hmm.
Yeah, they're seeing each other now.
Mhm, mhm.
And like a realization now there's more clarity around because they didn't know each other before. And so there's more clarity around, you know, so these ones are like, oh, you're the parts that we had to push out of the way to buy things. And then these parts are aware that there was some resistance to the budgeting and the planning and the spreadsheets were these parts. And so now they're together or they notice each other now. So now there's a few parts there. And yeah, the main pieces that I'm noticing that feel like big shifts for them are checking in around whether we're triggered or not around spending. Like, is that why this behavior is coming up? And it's almost like there's this awareness that like if there are parts triggered, it's not something they have to or want to take on. They're like, oh, we can just tell Mel. Mel, there's parts triggered inside. So there's like this trust that I can handle that. So it's like they don't have to take on any of the inner work, but there can be more like roundtable discussions about spending without things having to be always yes or always no, but there can be more conversations about it.
Collaboration.
Yeah, yeah. And more around like, does this make sense for us right now? Opposed to we have to do this right now because if we don't, something bad's gonna happen. And it's interesting, my like money, these protectors are like teenagers. It's like these teenagers that took on all these ideas about money that were protecting these little like 1 and 8-year-old parts. And so I'm just telling them how good of a job they did with the knowledge that they had, the resources that they had. And I'm proud of them for doing what they did. And I'm also feeling happy that they don't have to keep doing that because it created a stuckness for them. Like there's this transition from like stuckness to fluidity that feels really big for this group of parts. It's like they broke out of black and white thinking and they're living in this like open-minded kind of free-flowing space that's full of choice and control that felt like they really didn't have before. And so that's feeling really nice inside for them.
Wondering if this lands or how they feel that in this collaboration that they can help each other get their needs met. If they can sense that, feel that, it could be just really radical for them to try on. That both all those parts can get their needs met.
Mhm. It feels like, as you name that, what became clear was it feels like a balance between like responsible money managers that want to make sure that we're on top of our finances, and then these other parts that want to also make sure that we enjoy
Mm,
our finances, like we enjoy the money that we have. But that's what the needs feel like we need to be able to enjoy what we have, and we need to be able to be more responsible with finances.
Mhm.
And it does feel like I wasn't really noticing that before, but it does feel like they can help each other out with that because it doesn't feel like, oh, if the money managers take over, we never get to enjoy our money, or if we enjoy our money, we're never being responsible, that both can exist together. One might get their way one time, another part another time, but it's not so black and white now for them. And so it does really feel like they can help each other get their needs met now that they're aware of one another. So it's almost like as they take each other in, like I'm seeing them look at each other, and I can see the trust that's slowly building between both clusters of parts. Mhm. And they've like completely forgot about the exiles. They're like, Mel's got that. And they can focus on this new dynamic that they're in where all of the needs can get met from the parts in one way or another.
So, balanced internal financial system.
Mhm. This group, anyways.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is there anything else that any of these parts to say?
Feeling, not hearing anything, but I'm feeling like a buzz of excitement from the protectors that are excited to see where this new formation leads us. Um, and there's a calmness around the exiles, like a settling almost. And they're just saying, the little ones are saying, check in with us before it's bedtime. And so I'm making a plan to do that with them, letting them know, yeah, I can do that. It's like they want to be like tucked in. Uh-huh. And so I'm letting them know I can do that. And they're just like, okay. And they're kind of off doing their own thing. Like there's like this implicit trust that, okay, Mel will be back when it's time for bed. Yeah, it feels settled inside.
It feels right just sending out gratitude to all your system, all those parts.
Mm. Like so
Thank you.
much love for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. 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 Thank you.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
Mhm.